this chapter is on similar polygons, similar triangles, and so we're going to do a lot of ratios and proportions. And so I decided to throw in the first section to just be a review of ratios and proportions. So hopefully this is all review, and it's nothing you haven't seen before. So if I were going to do, I didn't realize I didn't have my starboard up. If I wanted the ratio of length to height, or base to height, I should say, okay, that would be 4 to 3. And if this is meters, it'd be meters over meters, base to height, right? If I want height to base, it'd be 3 over 4. But notice I have meters on the top, meters on the bottom. Those cancel, so you always have to make sure your units are the same in the proportion, because ratios are unitless. The units cancel, so ratios are unitless. So if this was centimeters and this is meters, you've got to convert them to the same units before you can take the ratio of one to the other. Does that make sense? Okay. In addition, if this was 6 and 4, and I wanted to base to height, I'd still do 4 to 6, but you must always simplify your ratios. So you can't just leave it 6 to 4 in this case. You always simplify if you can. Okay. Again, hopefully this is review. If I wanted to take, if I set two ratios equal to each other, it's called a proportion. Okay. And I think in page 2, they went through several what they called corollaries with proportions. When you have a proportion, you cross multiply. Okay, so this becomes AD is equal to CB or BC, either way. Okay, and I could switch these two, and I would still get the same proportion. So take a look at that, if you haven't already, page 2, the different corollaries of the different combinations of extremes and means, which is what this proportion is called. Okay, so if I look at the textbook check, if I wanted the ratio of honey wheat bagels sold to sesame bagels sold, honey wheat is 50, sesame is 25. Whatever's first goes on top. Whatever follows the 2 goes on bottom. So it would be 50 over 25, which can be simplified to 2 to 1. Okay, always simplify them. All ratios are unitless. That's true. When two ratios are set equal to each other, it's called a proportion. Using one of the corollaries, if this is true, then this is true. Well, the way we could check it is just cross multiply both and see if we get the same thing. So when I cross multiply this proportion, I get 2 times 35 equals 5 times 14. When I cross multiply this one, I get 2 times 14 equals 5 times 35. Those are not equal proportions. They don't equal the same thing when I cross multiply both. Okay, and finally, we get into the beginning of what we're going to learn tomorrow, which is similar triangles. Triangles are similar if they have the same size, but they don't, or the same shape, but not the same size. Remember, if they're congruent, they have exactly the same size and shape. If they're similar, they have the same shape, but they are not the same size. And that's where we're going to start doing ratios and proportions. So if I look at these two triangles, if I wanted to find the measure of AC, I would set up a ratio. I could say 3 to 9 equals AC to 15. Does everybody see that? 3 to 9 equals AC, which I'll call X, to 15. Okay, one thing I would tell you when you do problems like this, it makes the math a lot easier if you simplify the ratio first. Because now when I cross multiply, I get 3x equals 15. So x is 5. Okay, I could have not simplified, but then I've got 3 times 15 is 45 equals 9x. X is 5. Same thing. the math is just easier on this one. So if you simplify your ratios, if you can, first, before you cross multiply, it'll make the math a little easier. You should get the same answer either way, though. Okay, so we're going to be doing a lot with ratios and proportions. This section is just a review of that math, so that when we get into the actual problems and the rest of the chapter, the math part of ratios and proportions will come easy for you. Questions on that? Now, there's no big ideas this chapter. I put classroom problems in through a Google form, and they're all listed in Canvas, and they're all multiple choice. So it will grade it for you, but you don't have unlimited tries. Okay, so just take your time on the classroom problems, and it will, like I said, at the end you'll know what you scored on it when you're finished. Okay. Questions? All right. So you've got CK12 for this section, and then the classroom problems on Canvas.